She mullin' on my Rodney till I primo. She shove it on my tail grab till I'm boneless. She hawk 2 on my Tony till I'm underground.
Wow! Incredible!
The Tony Hawk games are magical. They really had me at 7 years old believing I could skate. And even though I can't ollie 20 years later, I'm like way more into skateboarding than the average person, and this series is to blame. I'm a little young to have fond memories of the Pro Skater games in the PS1 and 64 era, but Tony Hawk's Underground 1 and 2 are the games I'm quite possibly the most nostalgic for, like ever. They were released just a year apart in 2003 and 2004 respectively, and I'd probably put them in my top 10 favorite games from that era. That's why today, I'll be 100%ing both of these games. Will completing these games be an extremely tedious task? Do these games stand the test of time? Will she flatland on my grind rail till I'm 900? I sure hope so. Find out all of this and more right now. While Underground 1 and 2 are the 5th and 6th mainline games in the series respectively, they're the first Tony Hawk games to have a proper story. Despite the name though, pretty much none of these games are about Tony Hawk himself. If anything, he's more like a Christ-like legend-type figure that exists in the world, and only recognizes you once you've earned recognition in his eyes. It's Tony's world and we're all living in it. Underground 1 is about you, the player, going through the trials and tribulations of becoming a pro skateboarder. I named my skater Walter Hawk, by the way. It's a long journey that starts with you as a local small-town skater in the town of New Jersey. You climb the ranks with your best friend Eric Sparrow, get sponsored by a local skate shop, win competitions, get sponsored by major skate brands, win more competitions, jump over a helicopter in Hawaii, get the credit stolen from you by your rat bastard friend Eric Sparrow, you go to a Russian prison, get bailed out by the American embassy, and the game ends with a skating competition against Eric for all the fame and glory. All just standard fare stuff that every skater must go through. If you couldn't tell, the story is honestly all over the place. It takes a couple hours to beat, and everything I listed is really all the main story beats of Underground 1. The missions themselves consist of carrying out arbitrary tasks for friends and randos, and doing the occasional skate competition or plot-relevant mission. It's entertaining and memorable though, to say the least. There's this really cool part where you band together with a bunch of pros to put a video together, and you have to do challenges as each of the pros. As someone who was once a kid who enjoyed skateboarding despite being horrible at it, this shit was pretty huge to me. I got to be someone. Tony knew my name, damn it. But to a young Jahnhub, Underground 2's story was everything. You start as your character from the first game. I think he did something with his hair. He's the same guy though. You're skating in your humble little town of New Jersey when you get kidnapped and stuffed into a black van. You wake up and are greeted by Bam Margera. This is symbolic of the Jackass crew taking full control of Tony Hawk's game by force. Tony is there too though. He doesn't look happy, honestly. He and Bam announce that they've gathered everyone here to host the World Destruction Tour, a competition between Team Tony and Team Bam to wreak havoc across the globe, I guess? While I think that making this game a Tony Hawk and Jackass crossover was a weird decision, you do destroy a lot of shit in Underground 1, so it's somewhat fitting. Regardless, I ate this shit up when I was 11. This story actually makes even less sense than Underground 1's. Tony and Bam draft their teams for the World Destruction Tour, and the people they've chosen to participate in the skating competition are all pros Tony Hawk is friends with, half the cast of Jackass, Eric Sparrow from the first game, and a 10-year-old boy who's in a wheelchair due to skating-related injuries. Seeing this in the modern day is when I knew there is no way this game is getting a remake. So Bam chooses the 10-year-old boy over you. This person is not 10 years old, by the way, just look at him, which places you as the last pick on Tony's team. A move that makes absolutely no sense from a plot perspective, considering your character regularly placed top 3 at every skate competition in Underground 1. The World Destruction Tour has your team going from location to location, getting as many points as possible for doing destructive things. Every map has at least a couple destructible areas that change the layout of the level as well, which I thought was pretty cool. The losing team after each level has to spin a wheel that all but guarantees a horrible punishment, like players being eliminated, having to do a risky challenge, or most interestingly, getting put on Bam's team for a level. I've always wished you could choose to play on Tony's team or Bam's team at the start of the game, each with different routes and endings, but Underground 2 came out a few years before that sort of thing was commonplace in gaming. Halfway through the game, this clout-chasing Redditor named Nigel Beaverhausen shows up and tries to produce a film of the World Destruction Tour, and instead of saying no, Tony and Bam hoist him up by his underwear using a crane and drop him 20 feet to the ground. It's honestly schoolyard bully behavior. I expected this from Bam, but not you, Tony. Nigel gets dropped from the crane and lands directly on Eric Sparrow, who you actually never exchange words with in this game and wasn't a threat to you whatsoever, and he's effectively gone from the story. You do a couple more stunts, your whole team gets arrested in New Orleans, and then it's just you and Tony left to finish out the competition. The final challenge has Bam stake his team winning the entire World Destruction Tour on you skating through the last level in a single combo, and it's super anticlimactic and easy. Also, like, it's a stupid decision from Bam because he's betting on me dying in a fire. I gotta find some new friends. And that's the story of the Underground series. Both stories are actually pretty short, a couple hours each, but does a licensed skateboarding game really even need a story? I'm honestly just impressed the team was passionate enough to go for something like this, and I can't imagine I'd replay these games as much without the mission structure that their stories provide. I also can't name any other sports games at the time or even in general that have an original story voice acted by the athletes featured in the game, and the only ones that I can think of are the career modes in some of the NBA 2K and WWE games, which are laughably bad. I think a valid question too is, does this story hold up in the modern day? And to that I'd say, it doesn't hold up amazingly, but kinda. I mean, the plot and the ideas are fine enough. The underdogs started from the bottom plotline of the first game and flat out crazy story in Underground 2 are fun to experience, but the writing and especially comedy ranges from hit or miss to downright offensive.
Stop it! You're retarded.
No, you are! Oh!
The Tony Hawk series in general is a time capsule of the late 90s and early 2000s, for better or for worse. Neversoft, to their credit, appears to be very in tune with skateboarding, and their genuine love and respect for skate culture definitely shines through. They also did a good amount of research to get the look and feel of every level down, since they are based on real locations. I've been to maybe 20% of the locations featured in these games, and I mean, looks good to me, guys. But for all the things they got right, the gratuitous use of stereotype humor is not one of them. We've got all your favorites, like prideful McDonald's chef with offensive accent teaching you ancient skateboarding techniques.
Failure will bring disgrace to my name and restaurant.
There's an indigenous Australian riding a go-kart with a derogatory, outdated name. And who could forget this little nugget from Tony himself?
I suggest starting off with the Hiroshima Snot Rocket, but here are some other things you might try.
And thank God we're not completing Tony Hawk's American Wasteland.
Ooh, your body is strong, but is your mind of equal strength?
They are never remaking these games, guys. The gameplay of the Tony Hawk series is quite possibly my favorite of any game franchise ever. It's so unique from any other game I've played, including other skateboarding games, and it slowly improves and iterates on itself as the games in the series progress, reaching its peak at Underground 2 in my opinion. So then why bog down these otherwise perfect games with this Family Guy-ass approach to comedy and storytelling?
Kind of ironic, man. Him nailing a wiener cart? Get it?
I've built up a reputation online as the guy who skips cutscenes, and no lie, these games are why I do it. Games like these would be nothing without fun environments to skate in and fun goals to complete. And thankfully, Underground 1 and 2 have a ton of these. Every level, with a couple exceptions, feels like it was carefully crafted to be satisfying just to mess around in. There are a ton of landmarks that make every level iconic and memorable, and it's incredible the way you can combo from one side of a level all the way to the other very smoothly. Add in missions for nearly every level, and it feels like not a single segment or area of a given stage goes unused. Between Underground 1 and 2, there's 27 total levels as well. So I'm going to take it level by level, going over everything there is to do, talking about how fun the level is to skate in, and using that to give an overall score out of 10. Starting out with the Underground 1 levels, we have New Jersey. Having seen The Sopranos, the New Jersey level is the most accurate depiction of a location in any of these games. It's the introduction level in Underground 1, and canonically where the main character is from. This level serves as an introduction to just about every mechanic in Underground 1, as well as a place you return to multiple times at various high and low points in your journey. It's also got some iconic areas to skate in, and it's very skatable in one combo, making it one of my personal favorites in these games. My only issue is that there's maybe one or two of what I'll call dead spots in this level, meaning areas that there isn't much to skate on. 9 out of 10. Manhattan is an iconic level, in the story as well as in the Tony Hawk community. I feel like every time I see gameplay of Thug Pro, the Underground 2 mod that has levels from every Tony game, They're always skating around on this one, and for good reason. The story goals within this level are good, but where this level really shines is there's no dull part of the map. Maybe just this upper bridge area whose boringness is exacerbated by a goal where you just skate behind someone for 20 seconds, but that's about it. The only other thing I'd say is having visited Manhattan, this level doesn't evoke Manhattan to me, you know? I don't care though, 10 out of 10, great level. The Tampa level is good, I suppose. I really don't have much to say about this one. In the story, there's some amateur skate competitions which are pretty fun to compete in. You meet Tony Hawk for some reason, and there's this mission where you drive a car into the water. Oh, and this is important to note. This game has a vehicle in every level. It's usually a car, and the driving is a little wonky. Since the levels are designed to be skated in and not driven in too, some of the levels later on are pretty much pointless to drive in. Anyway, I'm not floored by any part of this one in particular, but it's not bad by any means. 7 out of 10. San Diego is probably the weakest level in the story, and one of the weakest overall. Since this is an early 2000s game, I can excuse there not being that many NPCs or cars or anything, but for a location based on a city with a population of over 1 million at the time of this game's release, this is maybe the emptiest place I've ever seen. All the NPCs that give missions or are present in missions are tucked away in little corners, and like the Manhattan level, I'm not feeling a lot of San Diego from this one. I know this map is based specifically on Balboa Park in San Diego, but even the game's interpretation of this area lacks a bit too much detail for that to be evident. It's also just not that fun to skate around. The level does not flow very well. 4 out of 10. Hawaii is pretty good. From playing a lot of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, I'm pretty spoiled from that game having a pretty faithful recreation of Honolulu, but they did a good enough job on this one as well. It's actually interesting to see what specific areas were emphasized in both Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and this game's Hawaii maps. Tony Hawk games have a very landmark-oriented design philosophy, where they'll take maybe 3 of the most notable locations within a region of the world and kind of put them 100 feet away from each other, even if in real life they're miles away. But it works a lot of the time. Also, the climax of the whole story, where you jump over a big helicopter and Eric Sparrow lies and says he did it, that happens in this level, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10. In the world of Tony Hawk's Underground, Vancouver is mid. There's some decently skatable areas, there's this big hotel you can skate through and that's cool, and that's about it. Vancouver probably has some of the worst and most forgettable story missions. The worst being this one where you have to drive this slow as shit piece of shit idiot leaf blower over a bunch of stupid idiot dumb jerk piece of shit leaf piles. They have me doing ice road trucker level maneuvers to pick up a small pile of leaves. 5 out of 10. One thing that actually is neat about the Vancouver level is it connects directly to the Slam City Jam level. Well, you can see the entrance, but you have to navigate to the level itself in the menu. Connected levels would show up 2 Tony games later, but I believe that this was the blueprint. Neversoft LMK in the comments if this is true, please. Thank you. Slam City Jam is pretty good. It's a big skate park where you do skate competitions to become a pro, and that's about all there is to it. Pretty much every story mission is in service to that goal as well, except for this weird mission where you have to drive a hard-to-control blimp to save people that got stuck on some lights. This is a weird game, man. 8 out of 10. Moscow is the undisputed GOAT of Tony Hawk's Underground. Many levels flow well, they're skatable, the story missions can be iconic, but no level has it all quite like Moscow does. How do they do it, man? 10 out of 10, baby. Next level, please. While the game begins and ends in New Jersey, Moscow is the final new level that you'll visit. By beating the game, though, you'll get the greatest reward in all of gaming. Hotter Than Hell, a skatable virtual concert for the band Kiss. What I can only assume is a promotional tie-in of some sort. You can collect the letters of Kiss, and the band Kiss will appear. You can grind on a table, or even skateboard next to the band Kiss. There's a dune buggy, and you can use it to jump over the entire stadium, which the band Kiss is situated in. I have no choice but to give this one a 4 out of 10, after how many members are in the band Kiss. In 3 of Underground 1's story levels, there's also hidden collectible classic levels that you can obtain. All 3 are remade versions of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 levels, and there's not too much to say about each of them. First is School 2, which I've always thought has a bit too much dead space between trickable surfaces. I'm more of a School 1 guy myself, 3 out of 10. Next up is Venice, which is probably my least favorite level in Pro Skater 2 next to New York City, but that one's not in this game. This version of Venice is just so gray and boring too. It wasn't reformatted or resized to accommodate the advancements in tech and mechanics between Tony games, so it's just not that fun to skate around. 2 out of 10. Last but certainly not least for Underground 1 is Hangar. This is the opening level of Pro Skater 2, and here's a hot take, but to me it's kind of just the warehouse from Pro Skater 1 at home. Sure, it's got nicer set pieces like the helicopter and the end areas with the ramps, but Warehouse 1 is just better. That being said, this is still a great level. I'm especially partial to the Pro Skater 1 and 2 version. Underground 1's version is just a bit washed out and underwhelming. It still gets a 6 out of 10 for me. While Underground 1 has a ton of highs and lows in terms of its levels, Underground 2's levels are just consistently good in my opinion. The first level is even the warehouse from Pro Skater 1 like I was just talking about. For whatever reason, they've renamed the warehouse Training, but it's mostly the same level. The major difference is they've added this section of pipes on the ceiling that connects throughout the whole level, and there's a whole nother half to this level that's just simply underwhelming. It's got a few ramps that don't go anywhere, and a pool of water next to an electrical box, I think. I know this whole section is only meant to introduce players to some advanced and niche mechanics in the game, but this area kinda just feels like it was designed by AI. Sometimes less is more. Overall though, I still give it a 7 out of 10. Boston was my favorite level from Underground 2 when I was a kid, and I have no idea why. This level famously has a reference to the Star Wars Kid, that old viral video, as an Easter egg in one of the buildings. Which, by the way, everybody knows that Star Wars Kid is from Quebec, so what the heck is he doing here? Star Wars Kid, if you're in here right now, can you please comment down below why they're saying you're in Boston? Thank you. Speaking of meme references, this level's got Ben Franklin, who's going to invent a move called the Franklin.
That's Ben Franklin. He's going to invent a move called the Franklin.
I'll invent a move called the Franklin.
See?
Solely going off the amount of lore this level has, it's already a 10 for me, but it's also just fun to skate around. On the street level, there's a good flow to the obstacles. It feels like everything's placed in just the right area to skate around this level in one combo. There's verticality to this one. You've got roofs that you can skate on, high wires, and all that good stuff. This is one of the smaller levels in the game, but it's so densely packed with things to see and do. It's a great example of how Underground 2's level design has improved from Thug 1. Barcelona is a fan favorite level for sure, and I'm equally buying into the hype. It's one of the largest levels in the game, and it's also pretty densely packed with things to do and explore. It's got Steve-O from Jackass as a guest character, who's taken a break from putting scorpions in his ass or whatever to ride a mechanical bull. It's super fun to me to just ride the wire of the lift, or skate on some literal bullshit. Another perfect 10 out of 10 from me. One of the most notable things about Berlin in this game is it's the only level where you play on Bam's team during the story in the World Destruction Tour. I don't really know what else to say though. This is a fun level with a lot to do on the ground or on the rooftops. 8 out of 10. Australia is probably my least favorite level of the story levels in this game, and it's mainly due to the goals in this one. It feels like the game momentarily ran out of steam while designing what to do here. You gotta throw shrimps at lifeguards. You gotta transfer between these ramps, do a perfect double heel flip 180 or something over some cars. I just get the sense they were phoning it in just a little bit on this one. The level's fun to skate around, I guess, but there's a few dead areas like the beach with the sand that makes you get off your board, or this indoor area here. I'm feeling a 5 out of 10 on this one. When I was speaking about Manhattan from Underground 1, I said that the Tony Hawk community and Thug Pro players like that map, but they love the New Orleans map. It seamlessly connects the rooftops to the street level. There's a graveyard that's super memorable. You can raise the undead in this one. There's a jester. You can seal a wormhole to hell by doing an airwalk over a statue of the Virgin Mary, making this a Christian game. I mean, what more do you want? 10 out of 10. Skatopia is the final story level, and somehow by the time you get there, Tony and Bam's teams are completely tied in score, so none of the other levels mattered. It has a lot of half pipes to trick on, wires to grind, and it's a pretty big level too. It's got a lot of verticality, but it also functions as a downhill jam type of level, where you can combo from the top to the bottom back to the top. It's great, but not perfect. 9 out of 10. Beating the story rewards you with the level Pro Skater, which is just an odd name for a level that takes place in the future, then at an ancient temple, then in hell. The band Kiss is notably absent from this one, so I'll have to give it a 3 out of 10. It's also not very fun to skate around in, so the score is pretty justified. And that is it, other than the remaining levels of the game, of course. Underground 2 actually has 7 additional levels, and they're all tied to a different game mode entirely. And let's just say, the next section of this video will be a real, shall I say, classic. You know, the reason they call it Tony Hawk's Underground 2 is because... Shut up! Shut up! The reason they call it Tony Hawk's Underground 2 is because there are 2 games in this game. You've got Story Mode, which we've covered in excruciating detail, and Classic Mode. This is a side game mode where you get 2 minutes to complete 10 goals, just like the classic Pro Skater games. I call it a side game mode, but it's honestly as long as the Story Mode. There's actually even more playable levels in it, albeit they're faster to clear. Completing Underground 2 does require you to beat Classic Mode on both normal and sick difficulty, as well as completing every single goal in one of those playthroughs. I chose to do it on the hard one just to be safe, and because I'm an elite gamer of course. Classic Mode features every story level except for Pro Skater, thank God, but also 7 additional levels, most of which are just revamped levels from Pro Skater 1 through 3 with new goals. Format-wise, the levels are pretty similar. Find 5 of this collectible, do this trick in this area, get a high score, wash, rinse, repeat. Because of that, I don't think any story levels present here are particularly made better or worse from having a Classic Mode variant, so I won't rehash them or anything. In classic Jahnhub fashion, I'm going to talk about these levels in like 2 sentences or less. I don't know how long this video is going to be from all the other levels I talked about, and some of us have to get home to our wives and kids tonight. So let's start off with Airport. It was originally featured in Pro Skater 3, and it's like my favorite level from that game. It's really good. 10 out of 10. School 1 from Pro Skater 1 is here. Remember when I was talking about Underground 1 and I said I prefer School 1 to School 2? Yeah, I remember that too. 7 out of 10. Downhill Jam from Pro Skater 1 is also here. Very innovative design. Underground 2's version is a bit washed out from the original, and I think it just looks a tiny bit ugly for that. Still a great level though. 9 out of 10. Canada. What can I say about Canada? It's from Pro Skater 3, it's good, it's like a big skate park with a forest next to it, and it's all snowy. I mean, yeah, it's good, I don't know, it's good, yeah, I don't know. 7 out of 10. Philadelphia from Pro Skater 2 is a very fun level. The outskirts of this one are just empty streets with a couple cars, and there's nothing to do out there, but don't think about that too much, it's a good level. 8 out of 10. Los Angeles from Pro Skater 3 is the last level in Classic Mode. I don't really like this one. I can acknowledge it as a good level, but I personally don't enjoy it. I think there's too much street and not enough things to skate. The Underground 2 version also has maybe some of the most annoying classic goals of all time for this level. 5 out of 10. So you probably thought that was the last level because I literally told you that it was. But I simply just wanted to simulate what it felt like to beat Los Angeles and then be greeted by the real final level, the Triangle, or as Chucky Finster calls it, the Fryangle. I think it's like a play on the Bermuda Triangle. There's aliens and UFOs and pirates. It's a bit confusing and I don't fully understand the lore if I'm being honest. It's a cute level and probably the best of the supernatural type levels, but it's not that fun to skate around. 5 out of 10. And with that, that is every level in Underground 1 and 2 ranked. We did it. Now surely the only thing left to talk about with these games isn't the worst completion metric in any game ever. I mean, there's so many games in the universe. And even the order with which we chose to complete these games in particular, I mean, what are the chances that the next thing there is to do is complete the worst completion metric in any game ever, right? In November of 2023, I began working on a video about gaps in Tony Hawk. Just like how a skateboarder jumping a staircase or grinding a long rail is an impressive feat, gaps in these games are additives to your score that trigger when you skate specific lines or routes in a map. I had so much difficulty expressing just how much I hated finding the gaps in levels that I scrapped that video and resolved that 100%ing the entire Yakuza series would be less annoying than finding every gap. So I'm finally back to resolve unfinished business. I hate finding gaps. The concept of gaps is honestly great. If I grind in a 100-foot long rail in a level, I should get some extra points and some text that says "holy shit" at the bottom. It also incentivizes players to skate the level in a creative way, hitting as many gaps as possible. While this is very cool, what I shouldn't have to do is find each and every location of where a gap is from the gap's name alone, just to fill out a giant list to complete the game. I've played every mode of every major Tony Hawk game at least 5 times each, but I can count on one hand the amount of times I found every gap in a game. It's fun to casually run into these, but when I could beat Underground 2's story mode 20 times before I could find every gap, that's kind of a problem. Finding every gap is absolutely not optional for 100%ing these games either, as the bulk of unlockable skaters can be found through finding every gap in every level. And so here's where the little twist of the video comes in. I didn't find all the gaps. I've been sitting on this video for 5 months now because my body refuses to sit down for 4 hours to maybe finish one level's worth of gaps. It is a mind-numbing activity where you constantly need to pull up a checklist of gaps in a level, try to triangulate where the gap might be based on a broad title, and even if you skate in the exact right spot, some gaps just won't trigger. In the time that it took to make this video, I got every gap in Underground 1. The gaps in Manhattan and Vancouver were hell to find, by the way. I barely even brushed the surface of the gaps in Underground 2. Maybe I'm just bad at finding things, but I have like a borderline photographic memory of the maps in this game. If someone did like a GeoGuessr for Tony Hawk, I'm confident that I would do well. That being said, I could not find all these gaps. Sure, I could pull up a guide or follow along to a YouTube video. I have in the past, and I looked up a couple things while running these games themselves, but this is such a burdensome task. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but I still stand by the fact that it's preferable to 100% the Yakuza series than find every gap in a Tony Hawk game. I admit defeat. This game beat me. I didn't do that. So here's where the age-old question at the end of the video comes in. Should you complete this game? I don't think I have the authority to speak on that. I mean, I didn't do it. If I had to give my take though, I'd say that the gameplay of the story and classic modes are great, but definitely skip the cutscenes. Underground 2 is one of my favorite games to just mess around in, so I'd recommend that anyone should learn and enjoy the mechanics of the game. These games both control so nicely even after all these years, and while I doubt they'll remake these games ever, I hope that they can find a way to at least bring some of these maps back. Not that I would know this, but getting all the gaps and 100%ing the game rewards you with the ability to play as any of the pedestrians featured in the games. It's a decent reward that massively expands the character selection, but really, how often have you heard someone say, "Bro, mom said it was my turn to play as Peter from Kiss"? Maybe just in my household. There's a few features that I didn't even get the chance to discuss, since they aren't really required for the 100% runs of these games. There's a whole create a park feature. You can go to any level and create custom goals to complete. The skater customization in these games has more depth than Skyrim's. It's really quite impressive how much game is in these games. Another testament to how much I love these games is I spend so much time distracting myself by watching videos of people scoring 100 million point combos in Thug Pro or the Pro Skater remakes. All that being said, I'll never 100% these games. But I guess that's life. I'm gonna roll myself up in a big ball and unalive myself. That's life, y'all.